Hello, my fellow companions of the crest, and welcome back to another episode of Extra Time, the U.S. Men's National Team Soccer Podcast. My name is Tim, and we got a lot to talk about today. The last couple days have been wild with USA Soccer news. If you were able to follow this podcast, if you're subscribed, if you're listening, if you got a chance to check out the last video, it's up here. I'm using my other finger because this is where the cards go. The United States, surprising no one, have fired head coach Greg Berhalter. They have continued, or began, depending on where your stance is, their search for another head coach. And I want to discuss a question that was asked of me by a friend kind of sarcastically, but I want to answer it seriously because I do think that it is a very serious question that we need to have answered. All of this is coming up as we head in to Extra Time. All right, so the United States, Greg Berhalter is out as the U.S. Men's National Team head coach. And honestly, this is not a surprise. If you were able to, I said on my last podcast, if you looked at the metrics that U.S. Soccer had laid out, that the Federation itself had laid out for the head coaching position, okay, and you just looked at what Greg has done in the last 6 months, last 8 months, he failed miserably. Out of the, I believe it was 7 or 9 different attributes and components that they were looking for in a head coach, Greg objectively, not my opinion, just looking at data and things that we've seen from the, I guess there's a little bit of my opinion, but looking pretty objectively at it, Greg had failed in 5 of those. He was kind of meh in 2 and had succeeded in 2. So if you haven't got a chance to look at that, again, go back, check that video out. Obviously, you could skip through it. You don't really have to look at a ton of it. It's not like a Greg apologist video, and it's also not a, we got to lose our minds and fire Greg. So kind of since then, there's been some things I want to touch on that kind of bother me from this perspective, and I'm going to be sharing a video that I just kind of want to react to because I think it plays really well into how I'm feeling and what's going on. So obviously, this shouldn't have been a shock to anybody, okay? If you're following sports and you're a sports person, you understand that when teams fail, when they have big opportunities, and there's not even just a big expectation. So it's not like the U.S. men's team was put into a situation where there was just this high reward that could have been obtained, but it was like a pretty low probability. Okay, this isn't like the goal was for the United States to win the World Cup or even win Copa America, and we failed to do it. This was, okay, we're playing Copa America. We don't really know what to make of Greg, so as soon as we get out of the group, it'll be like a good test. So if you fail to do that, it's kind of like every other sports team when your team loses the first 15 games of the season. You just lose your job. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily were or weren't a good coach. I mean, it probably means you're not a good coach. Your team lost 15 games. But we know it's professional sports. Sometimes the players just get mad. They don't want to play for the person. There was a situation in Arsenal where the best player just refused to play for Mikel Arteta a couple years ago and they had to trade him. The national team's a little bit different, right? You don't get a chance to recruit your players. You don't go and trade and do whatever. You got to make it work with what you got. So the thing I guess that makes it worse for Greg is that the players did like him and they were willing to play super hard for him. I'm not saying that they showed or didn't show that on the field, but Greg didn't have a situation where the players were like intentionally not giving it their all because they didn't like him. At least that's not what we were hearing from inside the camp. So Greg is out. It's what needed to happen. It's a shakeup that we're going to have for U.S. soccer. It raises a lot of questions about what the process was beforehand, why we kept Greg. Have we lost these last couple of months as far as training and stuff and other things goes? People are going to speculate. They're going to say all the things that they have to do because it's the media and they want to get attention. I don't want to talk about any of those things. We have to move forward. Okay. You can rip Greg all you want. You can rip this generation of players all you want. Go for it. You can keep going. I'm not going to do that because I believe that this is the best set of players that we've had. I believe that this is the most talented set of players that we have. Golden generation, people who are saying golden generation, I need you to understand, me saying that this is the best set of players that we've ever had is not saying this is the golden generation. Golden generation is labeled a group of players who you believe is like your nation is finally going to win. And not win games, not win their confederation, not win a couple tournaments, win the World Cup. Like Belgium's golden generation failed because they thought it was their best chance to win a World Cup. That's why they failed. Spain had a golden generation. They won back-to-back. They won the Euros on each side of it. They were incredible. That's a golden generation. This might be the most golden generation that we've had. Maybe in 4 years, 6 years, not this World Cup, the next one, maybe we can say it's the golden generation. I would love to be a golden generation in 2 years. Again, there's a video coming up that I want to share that's going to touch on this a little bit more. So we're just losing our minds and speculating, we wasted all the time. Look, sure. It feels like wasted time because we didn't have a coach that we're going to keep, right? Well, the coach that we hired, we go through this extensive process. You look at the 6 months and then you lose this and now you're looking at over a year. Okay. But we didn't lose recruiting. It's not like our coach didn't go after players we couldn't get a hold of. We have the same set of guys. We knew we were going to have the same set of guys. Okay. The shakeup's going to come. The shakeup's going to come. Okay. We're not missing out on anything. It's not like the gap that happened in the 2018 World Cup qualifying where we had the really old guys that should have checked out, but there was nobody to replace them. And then it was Pulisic's generation. That time has faded. Okay. So that's all I want to say about Greg. It's not a shock to anybody. It's not a surprise. Greg is now in the past. Let's let it go. Let's move on. In order to move on from Greg, okay, we got to start talking about the United States looking for future coaches, okay? And I hate to break it to everybody, Jurgen Klopp was kind of a pipe dream, huh? Kind of a pipe dream. And I wish I could say I was surprised. Right? I wish I could say I was surprised. Obviously, this is what we wanted to speculate on. Okay? Maybe it's our bias. Maybe it's whatever. He cited burnout. He doesn't want to do this thing. We were so wild and crazy. Obviously, he got the media attention and he got the Twitter likes and the Instagram thing. And he says, Happy 4th of July. It's whatever. It's not happening. Okay? Would it have been great? Sure. Would it have been awesome? Yeah. Jurgen Klopp is not going to be the U.S. men's coach. Okay. This actually broke a fairly decent amount of time ago. I mean, as far as the news isn't spreading and as fast as the news has been spreading, this breaking 6 to 8 hours ago is actually fairly old news given how quickly everybody's moving and making all these videos. So I tend to hold off. I like listening to other people. I like kind of just feeling it out. And again, I'm not the person who's trying to do the research and figure it out. So when I knew we were going to let Greg go, I don't want to make a video talking about all the new potential candidates and coaches. I don't know a lot about coaches. I don't, again, a fan, I'm looking at it from the player stance. I just want more out of the players. I follow Tottenham and our team, right? So I know when I don't like what the coach is doing, but I don't know other coaches and I'm going to go get, right? So, you can be the person who's oh, well, I did my research and I looked at, they said, you went through a list of coaches that weren't coaching anymore and you just picked a whole bunch of big names and you said, oh, well, we could obviously get Jurgen Klopp, but could we? But could we get Jurgen Klopp? Do we really think that these coaches, and I'm saying this genuinely, do we really think that these coaches are interested in a United States coaching position? Because if you read through some of these articles, and I'm pretty sure it's this one, they were hoping that this would be like, it would benefit him because it would be like a step down, right? They hope that it would be less demanding nature of a national team job. Now, look, I understand that it's less demanding in the sense that it's not day in and day out, like week in, week out. But as far as like least demanding national team jobs go, from a bias, from a crest perspective, touch the crest, Tim, this is to be the most demanding out of all of them. Maybe it's just underneath teams that are significantly more favored to win a World Cup that haven't, right? Like Spain kind of being on the rise. Maybe Spain, and given what their federation went through with the women's team, this might be maybe Spain's up there for a little bit. But we're hosting the tournament. This has to be one of the most demanding jobs. The only reason it wouldn't be is if our federation just truly, honestly doesn't care, which is really not out of the question. Because if this doesn't work, if whoever we bring in doesn't work, then Matt Crocker's got to go too. And again, that's not like a wild opinion. I'm not like some oracle who's telling you something you don't. Most people understand that. You have an administration, you have a leader who's come in and who said, I'm going to take responsibility for these decisions. We're doing this extensive process to find a new coach. You wind up with the same coach that you already had. And then like lots of rumors are now kind of coming out. And again, they're just rumors and it's just hearsay, but they're kind of ugly. And they're making it sound like you didn't really do a lot of extensive research and maybe there weren't really a lot of candidates in. And so now we're trying to figure out like why is Jesse Marsh, like why did he turn it down? Why was he not a candidate? It makes you wonder, like, was Jesse Marsh really strongly considered? I'm not saying he's good or not good, but there were a lot of people who were like, oh, look, let's go get an American. There are arguments for us to have an American coach because lots of other countries that have done really well and won their tournaments, they're coached by somebody from their nation. Okay. And again, I already said this. I have that bias. I like American coaches, and I don't like American coaches because I think American coaches are good or bad. I like American coaches because I want somebody who's standing on the sideline, who has more invested than just a job. And I'm coming from a leadership stance. If you want to be bought into the vision, like I could go coach Germany's national team. And when we played anybody but the United States, I'm all in. We're going to win. We're going to put the best tech. And I'm not saying I'm not going to do that against the United States, but you don't think that you wouldn't be going, man, I really hope my country wins. If you're like a diehard fan, now I get it, there's the business stuff and everything, but, we have to be realistic, but we also have to be kind of bold. I'm not somebody who doesn't think that the federation shouldn't like really dream big and go after it, right? Okay, so you couldn't get Jurgen Klopp. So let's go after the next biggest person. Like I'm not opposed to a not American manager, but again, go through the Kicking It series. Listen to like Tony Meola, listen to Eric Winaldo, listen to them talk about the coaches that we had that didn't speak English, that didn't believe in American soccer, that didn't believe in American players, that cussed our players out, that thought they were pieces of garbage, that belittled them, that did whatever. Like so those were like, some of those stories were heartbreaking stories. And if you're a U.S. soccer fan, do you really want a coach who's going to come in who doesn't believe in American soccer, who doesn't believe in the U.S. men's national team? Now, that could be true for a domestic coach. It doesn't mean that there aren't USA coaches and, and American coaches that wouldn't go, yeah, I'm just taking the job because it's a job and it's pretty prestigious and I want it on my resume because if I can, we're in a situation where you have to be careful because it's very obvious that there's talent on this ship, but the ship is way off course. So if anybody comes in and they right the ship, right, brand new tournament style, brand new whatever, you make a quarterfinal with this team. Even if you get a lucky draw and it's a really, really easy path, that's like, boom, stepping stone, you're out, right? So somebody is really tempted for this 2-year position to come in and do that and whatever. Now, there's also good news to that, because that's a real possibility. So you might be able to get a really quality coach who's willing to say, look, I've been coaching in the Bundesliga, but I really want to coach in the EPL, and this is a great program, and I want to kind of turn it around, or I've been coaching in League One or Liga 1, and this is what I want to do. And ESPN had an article with 16 coaches in it. There are coaches in that list that we could get that would do that. Again, I don't know any of them. I could sit here and read through their names. You should just go read the article because I don't know anything about them. We're going to have somebody who wants to come in and make an impact. I would love for that person to come in, make an impact, get us to a semifinal. Maybe I want to make the final, but I'm thinking get us to a quarter, get us to a semi, right? And in either case, a great game, a battle, a war, and then turn around and look at the federation and say, I'm your man. Pay me the big bucks. 4 years, let's go win this thing. Okay, that's what we have to do. That's what we're looking for, right? So here's what I want to do. I want to take you over. I want to react to and I want to listen to a video that I found. Okay, and you're gonna have opinions. Okay, you're gonna be irritated. You're gonna be whatever it is about it, right? I want you to watch. It's short. I just want you to listen to what he has to say because I think he's right. And you're allowed to think he's wrong because they ripped him in the comments, and I think that's half the point. Okay, so I just want to go ahead, and I got to put this on because this is just how the nature of my computer works because it ain't going to work if I do this. So now I got to listen. So I'm going to listen alongside you. We're going to give this a little bit of a thing, and we're going to react to it.
First of all, I want to talk about Greg Berhalter just got relieved of his duties as the coach of the United States men's national team. And, I've come to the realization, two things about soccer fans in America. Number one, they have been ignored, right, compared to football, basketball, baseball for years. So they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
So is he wrong? When you think about the United States soccer, and this is one of the points that I'm going to be making, when you look at the way that the media has talked about U.S. soccer and presents it, we are always on the back burner. And the back burner, actually, we're not even in the kitchen. Like, we're not in the refrigerator being prepared for the next meal. We're not even in the kitchen as far as American sports is concerned. Okay? So, being ignored for sure.
They're not really interested in you joining the club. And for guys like me who are traditionalists with the main sports, it's very hard to get the VIP pass code to be let in. You're always having to prove your worth. Baseball fans become a little like this since baseball over the last 20 years has lost so much of its social currency. It's just not talked about like it used to be at the water cooler. And so if you ever have an opinion about soccer, you're an outsider, and unless you're going to the matches and, you have to prove your worth constantly.
Is he wrong? You just go through and read the comments of this video. To read the comments of his video, I'll leave a link in the description so you can go ahead and watch this. I mean, you could also just Google Colin Cowherd's podcast. You'll find it. And I'm sure the comments that are going to be in this video, go look at the comments in my previous videos. We're not exactly like a warm, welcoming community because you say nice things about our team. I've done it. Like, this is the greatest generation of soccer players that we've ever had. And like the first 9 comments are like, wow, make it more obvious you've never watched a soccer game. Make it look like, do you not want other people to watch the games? Do you not want other people to do this thing? Like, are you so concerned with your own personal viewpoint in soccer that you'd rather just be like, no, it's going to be my way or the highway, and I would rather keep this as like this exclusive little boys club, right? This is the good old gentleman's club, whatever they call it, right? I mean, we got to get it together. It's sad.
Here's all I know about Greg Berhalter. 69% winning percentage, which is the highest winning percentage of any United States men's national team coach that has coached at least 20 games. And remember, this is a guy that got a draw in the last World Cup to the final field of 16 with none of his top players in their prime. None. He had players getting close to their prime. Pulisic now is just entering his prime. But people will say, well, he's got more talent than ever. If you look at every sport, including soccer in the world, you win championships when you have an overwhelming majority of your best players in their prime. Chris Jones, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce was middle to late prime when they started this run. That's the way it goes. right? Like, that's not to say you can't have players like a Brady who is older, a Gronk who is older. They have playoff experience. But generally, sports all work the same way. I mean, the Boston Celtics, Tatum in his prime, Jaylen Brown.
Right? Like, when you sit here and we want to rip a coach to pieces, right? I can agree with you that Greg couldn't get us to the next level, okay? I can agree with you. But to objectively look at it, okay, from the outside, from these other sports commentator perspectives, and go, how am I supposed to feel about this coach? And they look at the forums and they look at all this stuff, right? And they go, well, Greg's horrible. Greg's horrible. He's a horrible coach. This guy's terrible, whatever. And you have somebody on the outside. Now Colin's on the outside, but this is what he does. He's a sports commentator. He's an analyst. This is what he does. He's got multiple shows. Guy's been around for a long time. And he looks at it and he goes, but this is the winningest coach that you have. He did it with the youngest squad that we've ever had, a bunch of players that nobody recognized, that nobody knows, nobody's heard of, and none of them are in their prime. And you're mad that they're not winning. And when you think about it that way, it sounds insane. It sounds insane to me to think that like that's the way that we're approaching this, that's the way that this is happening, that we're having these conversations about the U.S. soccer team, and we can't do it in a manner where we can't recognize things that are just fundamentally true, whether we like them or not, whether we want them to be the case or not. Now, he goes on, right, to talk about like it's obvious that Greg was going to get fired, okay, right, because everybody in this position was going to get fired. This is stuff that we've already talked about. This is stuff that we already know. I brought him up because I wanted to talk about the impact that our media has on our soccer culture. Okay? This is the biggest factor to me, and I've talked about this before. I think that this is the biggest factor that's holding U.S. soccer back, and it's not anything else. It's not our coach. It's not our federation. They're all factors. Yes, federation's up there. Coach is up there. Players are up there. Yes, they're all up there. All of those things are up there. Strength of schedule, all that, it's all up there. The media, to me, is at the top of this list because I believe that culture is the most important thing. Okay? If you watched the Colombia-Uruguay game, for all the good and the bad that it was, for the fans fighting the families of the Uruguay players, okay, which is absolutely horrendous. I mean, I don't even remember the words I used. I don't know if it was atrocious or disgraceful or whatever. Like, I couldn't come up with a word that signified how disgusting that was. And that might have been the word that I used as I texted my brother and Chris. Like, that it's just like, it's just insane. I said sickening. And it is. It's absolutely sickening to think that would happen. On the field, the final whistle blows, and the Colombian players are crying. They're crying. They're looking up into the sky. They're praising God. They're giving thanks. They're hugging each other, right? You know, like you watch some of these things, right? And I remember this. So when I was surrounded at one of my places of employment, I'm working and the World Cup's going on. And I get made fun of every single day. And you can, and if you're a soccer fan, you know the things that you're getting made fun of because you're a wuss in America. If you're a soccer player, it's because you weren't good enough to play like the other sports. You're not a real man, right? You couldn't play the manly sports. So you can only imagine the things I'm getting made fun of for. And you're watching the games, and like a guy scores a goal, and his teammates come up, and they kiss him on the side of the head. And of course, everybody in America who's watching it, like all the comments start coming out, and you know exactly the kind of comments that people would say. Well, we don't have that kind of passion because in America, it's always, you'll get him next time. We'll get him next time, kid. You'll get him next time. It's in movies. That's like a quote. Like when I said that, movies came to your brain. There was like a man talking to his little daughter, and you'll get him next time, kid. That's our culture. Oh, your team didn't make the playoffs? Well, you guys will make some changes in the offseason. You'll be back there and you'll get it. Your country doesn't qualify for the World Cup? Have fun for the next 4 years doing nothing. And we're spoiled. We're spoiled because in CONCACAF, we're probably going to qualify again the next time, right? You had a bad group, but it's not a guarantee that Italy's going to qualify for the World Cup. They're panicked. They didn't do great in the Euro, and they still got to try to qualify for the World Cup. Other confederations, it's not that easy. It's again, horrifying some of the stuff that happens, but other countries, players have gotten killed. Coaches have gotten killed. Referees have gotten killed. I'm not condoning any of that stuff. That's extreme. That's insane. It's disgusting. It's despicable. It's horrible. It shows the difference. The fans fought each other. We needed to, we were calling for better security. My father-in-law's a Steelers fan. He could go watch the Steelers play in Detroit. He might get yelled at. Maybe somebody might get drunk enough to do it, but no one's gonna hurt him. No one would go up and try to punch him. If he had a small child with him, that wouldn't happen. None of those things would happen. We don't understand. The media, that's one extreme. But the media also has a role to play in the positive. Our media doesn't present soccer as an American thing. Now, the disclaimer on this, I understand you got to make money. I understand as a business, you're going to advertise the people who reach the most. And I know a lot of the companies I'm about to mention are international companies, okay? But I want you to think about this, because as an American trying to have American sports promoted, why is it that when we turn on commercials and when we look at advertising for soccer players, who do we get? We don't get Americans. Yeah, Lionel Messi's the GOAT. I get it. Again, it's a business thing. If you were going to advertise for a soccer player, you would put him up there, right? But Lionel Messi wasn't in commercials before, like this, before he came to America and started playing for Inter Miami. Was he in commercials? Yes. We saw him in commercials. You can find him. You can go on YouTube. You can find it. For the last 10 years, he's been in commercials in America. Since the Copa America has started, and he's been in Inter Miami, we have Lay's ads. Now, granted, this is a little bit beforehand. Michelob Ultra. That ad started when he first got here. And he came to the United States to play for Inter Miami. He has a Lowe's ad. So Messi has 3 ads? 3. So now when Americans think about soccer, they're thinking about Lionel Messi. Which still, a lot of people in the United States are like, I don't know who that is. Am I supposed to know who that is? Who's Lionel Messi? Everybody's all excited. They got these Messi jerseys. Who is that? So you go into a Dick's Sporting Goods, you can buy a Lionel Messi jersey from Inter Miami. You cannot buy a single USA Soccer jersey. Now, maybe the Dick's by you does. Maybe the sports stores by you do. Not me. I go into my stores, and it's not like there's other countries. It's not like there's tons of other jerseys. It's like there's a Messi jersey, and then that's it for the sports section. You can buy your little kids' cleats and move on. New Balance. New Balance had Bukayo Saka and Endrick. Not Americans. Now I know they're international companies. I get it. That's why I put the disclaimer on here. But I'm going to keep going because it's not just these, right? So now we have Christian Pulisic, right? And he's coming into commercials, right? But What commercial is he in? What commercial is he in? He's in his commercial, okay? He's not even in the United States, okay? He's not even in the United States. His commercial takes place in Italy. I'm not trying to have like a tinfoil hat moment here. What does that tell you about soccer? In the commercial, he gets a phone call in Italy, and they're like, hey, we got a problem. Like, Americans don't like soccer enough. And he's like, I got an idea. How about the fans? What? And then you just show a whole bunch of fans who are already passionate. And guess what? As he's on the phone and he's walking out, they have to have a disclaimer at the bottom that lets you know that the car that he's getting into is the European model. We're not even advertising American cars in that commercial. I'm not trying to be wildly like we got to be all American or stuff like that. I'm not. This isn't one of those things. But if I'm a U.S. soccer person and I'm trying to figure out like how do I grow the culture, how do I grow the sport, right? I need U.S. soccer to be presented in a manner. I just need soccer to be presented in a manner that it can be American, that it is American, not that there are people in America who really wish they were living in England because they really like England's sports culture. Okay. What about the television shows? Right? What about the television shows? When you go to watch United States men's games, do you have the same luck that I do? Where you're going to go try to watch the shows, but you can't because it's on BN Sports, it's on Telemundo, it's on TUDN, it's on DAZN, it's on Goal, it's on Fubo. And you can't watch it? And if you do watch it, it's not in English. You can't get a broadcast in English. And then when it is in English, it's on Peacock, Paramount. You got to pay for it by subscription. But I can watch football every Sunday. I could go to Buffalo Wild Wings. I go to literally any sports bar, restaurant on a Sunday, and every single game will be up on their TV. Every American knows who Tom Brady is. You have to find special restaurants, special bars. Most of them are owned by families who came over internationally. So like you go to like Mediterranean bars and restaurants of that culture, soccer will be on, cricket will be on, it'll be there. Irish, European, but they'll all be on. All that stuff will be on. You talk to people, I've talked to people from Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Mali. Without question, the only sport is soccer. It's all culture. We can be mad and we can think that it's the head coach, and if we just had a better head coach, we would do it. Okay, we could have a better head coach and the United States could have won Copa America and no one would have watched. Like, we're growing, right? When the United States played England in the last World Cup, it was the most watched sport. It was like 19.1 million people. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of unique viewers. But the Copa America shows up. Okay, you saw the games. Charlotte, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting the name. The Meadowlands, they're sold out. The Meadowlands is sold out. A sea of white and blue. Sea of yellow. They live here. So a lot of them traveled, right? I mean, I'd be traveling, but a lot of them also live here. We have a lot of dual national citizens that love soccer, and they're going to watch it. But we're only going to have networks that broadcast the games in Spanish. So think about it from a business stance. Well, it must make sense because it must mean that most of the viewers are Spanish. And I'm not Spanish, but speak Spanish, right? So they're of South American heritage, Central American heritage, European heritage, right? They speak these languages. So you're just saying that, like, well, let's not try to reach any of the English-speaking audience. Let's just go this route, because those are the people that are watching. So we'll just do it that way. I can turn it on Fox, maybe, if it's a bigger event. If it's just like the random friendlies, you never got a chance to watch any of those. You could do TNT and True if they happen to have an agreement with your cable company, which I know that that's not really like a culture in U.S. soccer thing. But again, it's a media problem. These are the problems that we're having. ESPN doesn't want to cover it. That's weird. So Fox Sports is going to cover every single football game. They're going to fight for contracts on this and that, right? And CBS, let's think about this. So we're going to get EPL in the mornings. And you're probably thinking just like I was, right? If you're a soccer fan, you're like, this is amazing. We got EPL mornings, and they got like the Chelsea banners out and the Man U banners, and they're going to watch all these games, and it's going to be great. They're not promoting American soccer, which means they're not promoting American soccer culture. I'm not saying we should ban all this stuff, so don't hear that. Don't hear like, this guy's a nut job. This guy's just like, oh my gosh, like we got to be all American. This is an invasion of culture. No, it's not any of that stuff. This is not one of those. No. I'm saying if they can do it, why aren't we doing it? So if the EPL figured it out, the EPL's like, hey, how do we get a bigger fan base? Well, we go to other countries. We see other countries that really love this. Like the NFL does it. The NFL plays games in Germany. They play games in England. The NHL does it. They go play games overseas. So they figured it out. And U.S. Soccer's doing it in reverse. U.S. Soccer's like, well, we need more people like soccer, so let's let other countries come play their soccer games here. So then instead of having our fans be really excited to watch the men's national team, they'll be really excited to watch Fulham's practice squad play Chelsea's practice squad, because we'll just put Eden Hazard's face on this, and we'll be like, you should know this guy. He's a big deal. Hey, Harry Kane's going to be here. No, he's not. He's not going to be here. He's not going to play. He's just on that team's roster, and you know you can use it to sell tickets and sell jerseys. And that, from a business stance, works because Lionel Messi's not going to leave. Right? You think about some of the... Go look at some of the YouTube shows that you got, right? Now, like CBS Sports Golazo is good as a step in the right direction. I'm not saying like I don't watch it, so I don't know anything about the sports content, but like at least it's soccer exclusive and they're trying to go for it. And they have former American national players, right? But so when Greg Berhalter gets fired and Fox breaks the news, the person breaking the news is Ortiz, a women's Colombian international. You have an entire sports players panel. Why weren't they the ones who broke the news and talked about it? You found out first. Fox even told us they had the inside scoop, and U.S. Soccer was going to let them know. And they were the ones like, oh, we got an inside report, but it's not really a report, and it's news, but it's not news. And Fox Soccer promised us they're going to do this, or U.S. Soccer promised us they're going to do this. And then you get all the news, and the reaction is Alexi Lau is doing it on his own podcast. This Fox Sports Now, people doing it on this, and it's like they're just like random people. Look, I know I like and agree and enjoy half of the people. Like I don't like listening to Marie Sedu. I don't like listening to Clint Dempsey. I don't like listening to Alexi Laus. I don't like listening to Taylor Twellman. Like I don't. And maybe they're hurting the brand, maybe they're helping. But at least they're American soccer players and we're getting their names out. The big problem, again, is that gap. So like Stu Holden's there, and I love Stu Holden. He was one of my favorite players. I got his jersey. But he's a commentator because he got hurt. That's not a shot at Stu. I'm literally not. I love Stu. He's probably like my favorite U.S. men's player of all time. He's a commentator because he got hurt. We don't have, like, England's got commentators that have come in. Italy's got guys that have retired that have come in. They're younger players that just recently stepped off the national team. Germany's got one. Denmark's got one. And we feature them. So, like, Maurice Edu's the closest. Clint Dempsey's the closest. Do we got guys that are coming back in? Because, like, Taylor Twellman, we're really going to get up there and be like, oh, Taylor Twellman, like a U.S. international. Like, Taylor Twellman was like a bench warmer at best. Okay, again, they're promoting the game. I can't be too much of a hypocrite because they're doing the thing that I'm asking people to do, right? Same with Herculez Gomez. I don't agree with any of the stuff that he's saying, but at least he's up there promoting the sport and pushing for the most for American soccer. And I think one of you ripped me for that or something. He's done more for the fandom than whatever. Okay, whatever. Going forward, what do I think we need? Well, we're going to find out a lot towards the end of this month. The United States Olympic team is going to be playing. I'm going to do my best to cover those games. I'm going to try to watch them. I know very little about those players. I just tend to kind of just do the eye test. I think that's the other thing that makes it really, really difficult for a lot of people to listen to me is I'm really just like an eye test person. So I just like watching players and I'm like, they're good, they're not. That's it. That's just kind of how it works. Which I really enjoyed listening to Eric Winalda and Bruce Arenas interviews because that's kind of how they function. They were just like, dude, you just watched him and you're like, this is the best, he's the best player in the field. That's it. And he's getting snubbed. And other guys are getting played over them because of whatever. And that goes back to some of the media stuff. Some of the players that we see getting played are getting played that way. You look at the way that we treat some of these players, okay? Talking about Landon Donovan now is fine because he doesn't have an influence on the team. But when it was time for Landon Donovan to step aside and he couldn't handle that, and I get it, that's what you've done your whole life. You're passionate. You want to play for your country. I'm not faulting him for this. By all means, believe you're as good as you want to believe. We're not Landon Donovan. We don't have to fall into that trap. We were watching the media push all this stuff because it's all these great players. Jermaine Jones comes over. He's like, oh, he could have played for Germany, but he didn't. And now, we got a German. Oh my gosh. Again, we didn't get an American. It's not like Christian, right? And even Christian's well, he's from Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's yeah, but he really quickly dipped out of here because he realized American soccer was terrible. And if you want to have a shot, you better play overseas. So you're promoting this American soccer is only going to be good if it exists outside of America. Tim, you're a hypocrite. You said you don't like the MLS. I don't. I think the MLS is getting there. But if the men's national team is saved because somebody who could have played for Germany is now playing for us, you've just stated Germany's better than us. And what you're saying is we should be really, really excited to have a player on our team that couldn't make that team's roster, while also saying the United States isn't going to be good until they can compete with that team and beat that team. And I really want to have a coach that's good enough to beat them because we don't take them seriously. Do you not see how silly all that sounds? It's silly. We have to find a coach that pushes, that motivates, that does all that stuff. Everybody said it 5,000 times. I don't know who we're going to get. I know the Olympic roster and the Olympic Games are going to be a big deal for us as far as up-and-coming talent. I don't think they're going to have an impact on the 2026 World Cup. They are going to have an impact on the 2030 World Cup. So it's very relevant that we can get these Olympic players playing time against big-name teams, against big countries, and we can give them that experience so that when they step up on the senior level, they're not intimidated when they play these big countries. It's normal for them. They're not scared about it, and they're used to playing at this top level. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Look, that's all I got. That's my thing. I just think we got to try to turn the media around. We got to try to do something. I don't know. Obviously, it's a lot of emotion stuff. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you even get a chance to watch this video, because I don't know, I've never reacted to somebody else, and I don't know any of the regulations and rules. This video could just get completely taken down because I got too much of Colin Cowherd talking in the thing. I'm not trying to get monetized, so I don't know. I don't care. So anyway, if you like this, you want to see other stuff like it, I know it's really late in the video, but if you made it this far, dude, props to you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. Tell me all the things that are wrong with this video. Love to hear from you again. Let's go red, white, and blue.